We're journeying back 30,000 years to figure out how our ancestors safely hydrated way before the luxury of modern taps even existed. I mean, today, getting a drink is as easy as just turning a handle in your kitchen, right? But for almost all of human history, finding safe water was literally a daily, high-stakes puzzle of survival. Think about it. Thirst could absolutely kill you, but so could a bad sip. Every single time an ancient human approached a river, they had to stop and ask themselves a terrifying question. Is this crystal clear water actually just poison in disguise? And they didn't have microscopes, obviously. They were facing these invisible, microscopic threats every single day. We're talking about dead animals decaying just upstream, disease-carrying insects breeding in the shallows, and parasites hidden right there in the current. It was a lot to worry about. Now, we often picture our ancestors as these, cartoon cavemen just blindly gulping down dirty water. But actually, surviving ice ages and crossing vast deserts meant they had to be incredibly observant. They were highly adaptable survivors who learned exactly how to read their world. So they faced this really terrifying paradox. On one hand, rivers give life. They desperately needed that hydration to survive. But on the other hand, rivers attract major danger. They were absolute magnets for deadly predators and breeding grounds for disease. It was a constant balancing act. To avoid those dangers, they actually got really creative. They survived by literally eating their water straight from the landscape. Yep, hydration didn't just come from drinking rivers. They sought out juicy fruits, dug up liquid-storing tubers from underground, and even got moisture from fresh meat and chewed up vegetation. So survival definitely wasn't just about physical strength. It was about paying constant, incredibly close attention to the tiny, life-saving details around them. Imagine a mother recognizing the wrong kind of insects hovering over a muddy puddle and instantly steering her child away. Reading the landscape really meant survival. They tracked these environmental clues like master detectives. A random line of green trees, that probably meant underground water. Flocks of birds circling, there's a source nearby. Animal tracks or fresh mud were dead giveaways that hidden hydration was right around the corner. And then, of course, there was the rain. Rain changed absolutely everything. During a brutal dry season, a sudden downpour wasn't just a weather event. It was a literal lifesaver that could turn a dead, deadly valley back into a thriving landscape. When the rain fell, they raced to, catch the sky. They quickly used whatever natural containers they could grab. Wide leaves, hollowed-out wood, even animal skins and shells, just to collect those pristine raindrops before they ever touched the dirty earth. But here's the catch. Timing was absolutely everything. The second that fresh rain hit the ground and just sat there, a clock started ticking. If it sat too long, it quickly mixed with mud, animal waste, and decay. Old standing water was basically a toxic death trap. Now, what's really fascinating is this paradox. As human civilization grew and we finally settled down into villages, our daily drinking water actually became way more dangerous. Nomadic hunter-gatherers moved constantly, so their sources stayed pretty clean. Settlers, not so much. Yeah, civilization honestly made water far more hazardous. By keeping farm animals, stored food, human waste, and just lots of people all in one localized spot, that single river that kept the village alive could suddenly spread disease through the whole tribe with terrifying speed. But to combat this concentrated, settled danger, our ancestors engineered a monumental solution, and that solution was fire. They figured out that the intense heat of fire could actually physically change their water and make it safe. And they did this long before metal pots were ever invented. It was this brilliant, step-by-step process. First, they heated stones in a roaring fire. Then, they carefully dropped those incredibly hot stones right into water held in animal hides, bark, or lined pits. The stones transferred that intense heat until the liquid reached a safe, rolling boil. Absolutely genius. So fire evolved from just being a way to keep warm and keep the dark away into something much bigger. It became their very first technological shield, a true line of defense against those microscopic, invisible enemies we talked about earlier. Beyond boiling, they also learned to physically filter their drinks by mimicking nature. They'd patiently let heavy mud sink to the bottom, or pour the water through tightly woven plant cloth, grass, layers of sand, or even natural charcoal to physically strip away the dirt and danger. And every single small improvement in water clarity meant a much lower risk of getting sick and dying. Over time, less mud and fewer bad smells became the goal, turning these daily survival habits into deeply respected traditions that eventually laid the groundwork for the modern filtration we use today. There's a great quote from the sources that perfectly captures this. An ancient person saw water as a living part of the landscape. They didn't just see a mechanical utility like plumbing. They had to be deeply, intimately connected to every stream, spring, and cloud, relying on pure instinct and memory just to stay alive. So, what does this all mean for us? Well, knowing that just one wrong sip used to literally mean the end. Will you pause before your next glass of tap water? Next time you effortlessly turn on your kitchen sink, take just 1 second to appreciate the thousands of years of observation, fire, and survival that made that completely safe sip possible.